organized by the Department of Social Work, Bharathidasan University. Yesterday, I hope that you had a lot of inputs, a thorough understanding on the basics or the fundamentals of the counseling, especially on the scope, need, and the process, which was a very fabulous session, both by Moidin Basha and by Professor Guru Bharati of MS Chellamutu Trust. So, and equally today we have a very competent person in the field of psychology by Professor S. Kadhiravan. Today he is holding three important positions, because normally it is very difficult for many of us to hold one particular position and work, and he has, is to his credit, three positions. So one as a controller of examination, Dean of Social Science, and Professor and Head of Department of Psychology from Periyar University. So we are happy in welcoming you, sir, on the behalf of the Department of Social Work. So before just formally handing over for his session on the theories in practice of counseling, so let me have the privilege of introducing Professor S. Kadhiravan. And when it comes to his academic distinction, so he is almost a gold medalist in all the field, from starting from BSc. He has Dr. A.L. Mudaliar Gold Medal from Sacred Heart College, Tirupatur, from which on the University of Madras, and M.Ed. University first rank holder, the University of Madras, and M.Phil also Vedanayagam Endowment Medal, Madras University, and Student Club Endowment Prizes from the University of Madras. And to his credit, he has also done two PhDs, one on PhD in psychology and PhD in education technology, and he has more PGs also. He has done MSc Physics, M.Ed. Education, and MA Psychology, MA Sociology, and apart from that, he had a PG Diploma in Counseling and Guidance. So when it comes to his professional experience, so in research and teaching, he has almost more than 20 years of experience, and training and counseling also more than 20 years of experience. And when it comes to the research contribution, he has almost published 77 articles in various international and reputed Scopus Index journals. And the conference he has attended almost 62, and he has organized 17 conferences and workshops. And he has convened also 25 conferences and workshops. And another credit regarding the research supervision, he has completed 51 MPhil and 14 PhDs, and ongoing 8 and 3. So when it comes to the professional trained received, he has been very eminent. He has been trained by the eminent institutions like cognitive behavior therapy and techniques at Albert Ellis Institute, Newark, advanced training course on rational emotive therapy and cognitive behavior therapy and techniques at Albert Ellis Institute in Newark, essentials of cognitive behavior therapy, the Beck approach in the field in US, CBT for depression in Beck Institute, again in US, CBT applications in emotional disorder from NIMHANS, clinical hypnotherapy, all the 5 levels, and the trainer program in California Hypnosis Institute of India, Mumbai. And the professional service, he has conducted almost more than 150 programs on the various topics, including stress and anger management, individual and groups counseling, family, marital and sexual counseling, CBT, REBT, clinical hypnotherapy, HR training and development. And he has given recently delivered a special lecture on the Siddha Health Center at Malaysia, and he was awarded Ellis Scholars Summer Fellowship and trained on rational emotive, as I told you earlier. And he has been editorial member in the editorial board of Periyar University Journal in Psychology and International Journal, Journal of Arts and Education, Indian Journal of Education Science, International Journal of Research in Humanities and Social Sciences. And when the professional membership, he has been a member of API, American Psychological Association USA, full member of National Academy of Psychology, a life member of Indian Academy of Applied Psychology Chennai, Indian School Psychology Association Puducherry, National Association of Psychological Science Chandigarh, Indian Society for Education and Allied Science Kodaikanal. So that's a very I've just given, I think this is only a few things, and we had a very vibrant speaker with voracious reading and knowledge in the field of psychology, education technology, and other fields related to the hypnotherapy and other things. So I hope that the participants will have a wonderful learning experience today also with Professor Kadhiravan. So welcome, sir. Once again, I welcome on the behalf of the Bharathidasan University and the Department of Social Work. So it is over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your nice words. But is it necessary to read all these things? I think it's inappropriate. It's not necessary, but thank you. And good morning, everyone present through the Google Meet as well as through the YouTube channel. And Professor, Head of the Department, Professor Mangaleshwaran, and my dear friend, Professor, mentor, Professor Kannan sir, and all the others. It's a pleasure as well as privilege to talk among the social workers. As Professor Kannan rightly pointed out, the social workers, we are inviting the psychologists. So I was a little bit worrying when I think about how to talk among the social workers. Because you know very well in the society that social workers are dominating than the psychologists, and social workers are reaching the downtrodden very easily than the psychologists. Though we are having a lot of experience with the books and training materials, etc., but social workers, you are reaching the field and you are working the ground with the downtrodden. That's the advantage, advantage for the social work people than the psychologists. That's what I'm insisting in my board of studies also. Like the social workers, we should allow our students to the psychology students, at least they should go to the field and they should have the hands-on experience.
Sorry for interruption, sir. There is some echo in your voice.
Now is it clear, Professor? Now is it clear?
Yeah, yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Check. Now is it clear?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, it's clear now. It's okay, it's okay, Professor. No, it's okay. You should give the feedback. Otherwise, I don't know whether participants understand or not. The problem with this is the problem with online programs.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, we don't know what is happening with the opposite person. Especially counseling should not happen like this. That's a different story. Okay, coming back to the point. So I used to emphasize. Is it clear, Professor? Professor, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this is what I'm emphasizing with the counseling students or psychology students also. Like the social work students, our students should also send to the field and they should get the hands-on experience. But the basic difference is those social work people are approaching the downtrodden in the field, and the rationale behind each and every therapy, rationale behind each and every steps in counseling, etc., have been practiced or not. That's the biggest question mark. The simplest thing is when you focus more in the field, and obviously we have little chance to get tried with the theories and techniques. So how to make the balance? I think that is the idea. Professor Mangaleshwaran has organized this webinar. The social work people also should have the sound theoretical knowledge in counseling. Thereby they can execute I'm getting lot of noises. Professor, I'm getting lot of noises.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. I will unmute them, sir. And sir, can you just speak without headphones, sir? Is it possible? Because there is again echo is coming. Can you just try? Sorry for.
Let's check my voice is audible.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's audible.
Yeah. Okay.
So now check it, please. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah. I
am getting a lot of voice.
I will unmute, sir. We'll kindly unmute, dear participants. Kindly unmute your microphone so that It will not hamper the mute. Kindly mute. Sorry. Kindly mute your microphone, please. Yes, sir. Please.
So now it's audible. My voice is audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, then it's fine. Without headphone, I can talk. So when we think of that is the reason I think Dr. Mangaleshwaran has taken the effort to balance the theories and techniques of counseling with the field practice. Whatever it is, I heard that yesterday you had a wonderful session with Professor Maideen Basha and Professor Guru Bharati. They spoke about the need, etc., for the counseling, and they set the stage for me. Now my duty, the assigned duty, is to talk about directly the theories. But in a nutshell, let me summarize what counseling is. First of all, we should have the clear-cut idea that counseling is the non-material help provided by an expert to the needy person. The needy person, we can call them as the client or whatever it may be, but it should be offered by an expert. Previously, guidance was taken as the separate area, and many people used to emphasize about the guidance. But today in counseling, the guidance became the part and parcel of guidance. Inside the counseling, we offer guidance in some area. I hope you are clear about that. Then, what is the nature of counseling? Counseling is curative in nature. That we should keep it in mind. And what we are doing in counseling. Yesterday you have gone through the process of counseling. So what we are doing in counseling? We are helping the individual to solve the problem by his own. We are helping the individual to solve the problem by his own. There is a story about counselor, but you don't get offended. I am also a teacher, I am also a counselor. See, one counselor, he is traveling with the car in the American desert area, and his car got repaired. It was stuck up. And he was looking there, one fellow who is a shepherd. You know how the shepherd will dress and they walk. They have the long stick, they have a dog, and they have the tad woolen on their shoulder, etc. So he was coming on that side. The counselor called him and asked him to help to get start the car. He has pushed the car and the car gets started. Now the counselor, he wants to show his superiority with that fellow because he is trained in American Psychological Association as the trained counselor. He is a certified licensed clinical counselor. So he wants to show his superiority to the person, the shepherd. Then he called that fellow and he asked the fellow, "Can I tell you how many things you have? Can I tell you how many things you have?" If you're telling, he was keeping quiet because he was unable to spontaneously respond in English language. So he was looking his face. Then normally the silence is taken as granted by all the people most of the time. That is the reason we are insisting about how to understand the silence of the client in many occasions. So you take it as granted. If I'm telling you how many things you have, I will take one thing from you. Even he was keeping silent. Then this fellow, what he did was he took his laptop and he has connected the laptop with the internet, high-speed internet, and he kept the web camera, took the photo, and he processed something, and he said, "You have 340 things with you. 340 things with you. Since I told, as per our agreement, since I told accurately how many things you have, I will take one thing." And he has taken one thing and he has started moving to the car. Now this fellow called him. "Sir, can I tell you whom you are? Can I tell you whom you are?" This fellow got violent. "See, I am trained as a counselor and I am the member of APA and I am the licensed clinical counselor. But this fellow, the shepherd, how he can tell me what I am?" And he asked, "Yeah, tell me." "Sir, you must be a counselor. You must be a counselor." This fellow got annoyed. How this shepherd, he came to know about, "I am a counselor. Just tell me, what's the reason? How did you identify me as a counselor?" He was asking. Then this fellow smiled and replied, "Sir, there is no single reason. There are three reasons. There are three reasons." "Okay, what's the first reason?" "Sir, you came without my call. I never called you to come and tell me how many things I have. I never called you to come here and tell me how many things I have." Number two, what's the second reason? "Sir, you have provided the information which is already known to me. Do you think that being a shepherd, I don't know how many things I have?" Then number three, he was almost upset. "What's the third reason?" "Sir, you have provided the information, correct, the total number of things, but without what I am dealing with, you have taken the thing. What you have taken is my dog, kindly return my dog. It is not sheep, it is my dog. So this is the story. Normally people used to criticize the counselor, but this should not be the case. That's what my point. See, being a counselor, we should have a thorough understanding about the client's problem. And unless the client is approaching you, we should not offer the counseling for namesake. Okay, so that is the definition says counseling is the non-material help provided by an individual, especially to a needy person, by a trained professional. So we are, as a trained professional, only when the person approaches with a need, we should address the issue. So counseling is not at the free of cost. It should not be offered on and then and there at free of cost. That's the most important thing. Not only that, while we offer counseling, we should have the thorough understanding about the client's skill, strength, weaknesses, and areas where we can focus on, areas the clients can work, etc. For which we need the thorough understanding about the various theories and techniques of counseling. Various theories and techniques of counseling will provide the framework how to understand the client from different perspectives, and how can we offer counseling from the different viewpoint of the client, as well as depending on the capabilities and the weaknesses of the client. So don't offend it with the story. The story gives it is the torchlight, warning light for the counselors without understanding a person properly. Understanding is a tedious process. So without understanding a person properly, we should not offer anything to the client. There comes the role of various theories and techniques in counseling. When you think of the guidance, counseling, and psychotherapy, I think tomorrow the other professor will be addressing about the difference between case approach, counseling, and psychotherapy. But still, as an orientation to touch the theories, let me differentiate. Guidance is the non-material help provided by an individual by another individual. So anybody can offer guidance. Based on your experience, you can offer guidance. Based on your learning process in the life, you can offer guidance. Or as a technical person, you can offer guidance. Or a subject expert in the field, you can offer guidance. That's why teachers are expected to play the role of the guidance worker in many of the institutions. Nowadays, teachers are overburdened with the counseling role also, mentoring role also. But in general, as a subject expert, as a person who knows the student very well, they're expected to offer the service as a guidance worker. But counseling is a non-material help, but it should be offered only by the trained professional. If you take the focus of the guidance focus on the strengths of an individual. We are identifying the strength of an individual based on which we are offering the guidance. Whereas counseling focus on the problems of an individual. See, the word need, there is a difference between need and want. Need itself is the deficiency. Want is the expectation. So the needy person means there is a problem. There is a problem. So guidance is used before the problem occurs. Before you are getting married, we are offering the marital guidance, premarital counseling, etc. have been offered. So before the problem occurs, before we choose, before we do, we can get the guidance. But once the problem has happened, like your marriage has happened, the problem has happened. So now the problem has occurred. Now we are helping the individual to come out of the problem. We are helping the individual to come out of the problem. There we focus on counseling. So counseling is, the purpose of counseling is helping the individual to come out of the problem by utilizing his own resources. That is also there. But how far the individual is capable of utilizing his own resources, that's also a big question mark. But still, we believe the abilities of an individual, the individuals are capable of coming out of the problem once if they get the right direction from the expert. The expert is the counselor. And if you focus on the guidance is preventive in nature. Guidance is preventive in nature, whereas counseling is curative in nature, because the problem has already been occurred. So, so counseling is curative in nature. Then, guidance focus on the strengths of the individual, counseling focus on the problems of an individual. Whereas psychotherapy or psychology-based therapy is the long-term process. Counseling is the short-term process, but psychotherapy is the long-term process where we are providing to bring the extensive alteration in the behavior of the individual using the various therapies and techniques. And counseling focuses on the weaknesses of it. Psychotherapy focuses on the weakness of the individual. So this is the basic difference between guidance, counseling, and psychotherapy. Guidance preventive in nature, counseling curative in nature. Guidance focus on the strengths of an individual, counseling focus on the problems of an individual, whereas psychotherapy is the long-term process. Using the psychological principle, we offer the long-term process, and psychotherapy focuses on the weakness of the individual. And of course, in psychotherapy, use wide variety of therapies depending on the problems of an individual as a long-term course, right? But when you talk about the counseling, again, there are three approaches in counseling, three major approaches in counseling. One is the directive approach. The directive approach. Directive approach, which is also called as authoritative approach, which is also known as a counselor-centered approach. Counselor-centered approach. E.G. Williamson was the proponent of this approach. E.G. Williamson was the proponent of this approach. The second one is non-directive approach, which is also known as client-centered approach, which is also known as person-centered approach. Person-centered approach. Then Carl Rogers was the proponent of this approach. Carl Rogers. And the third one is eclectic approach, which was proposed by F.C. Thorne. T-H-O-R-N-E, Thorne, F.C. Thorne. So directive approach, it gives the power only to the counselor. The non-directive approach, it believes on the strength of the client alone. Then eclectic approach, we are using the eclecticism. Eclecticism, there are two meanings for eclecticism. One is we are using a mixture of all the approaches. That is also known as eclecticism. And the other meaning is we start the counseling with the directive approach. If the client is capable of following the instruction and executing his own skills, then we are moving to the non-directive approach, and vice versa. That is the other meaning for eclecticism according to F.C. Thorne. And all the counseling following the six-stage model that you know very well. This is called as ASDPCF. ASDPCF. A, analysis. C, S, synthesis. D, diagnosis. P, prognosis. C, counseling. And F, follow-up. And F, follow-up. So ASDPCF model is followed in the counseling in general. So analysis, we are understanding the problem, analyzing the issues of the client. Then we are going for synthesis. We are synthesizing the problem of the client. We are making the problem statement. And diagnosis, we are analyzing various issues related to the pertaining to the client. And we analyze all those things with respect to the personal aspect, social aspect, family aspect, and all the other aspects. Then prognosis, we are predicting the future development of the client. If the client continues with the same problem, etc., we are predicting the future development. Then we offer counseling. Only in this place, the counseling, fifth stage, we talk about various theories and techniques. And follow-up, it is essential for any guidance or counseling or psychotherapy. Only then we will come to know about the outcome of our treatment. Then, when you think of the counseling, I don't know what to do. When I'm using the mic, I'm getting the comment that it is echoing. When I'm not using the mic, you are suggesting that voice is not clear. So let me use the mic once again. And if there is any problem. Yeah, of course, it might be clear. It might be clear. Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir. Keep the mic at a distance, sir, so that it will not be echo. Yeah.
Now is it okay?
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah. Fine, sir.
Is it okay? Okay.
Yes,
right.
yes, sir.
Then, when we talk about the counseling theories and techniques, we can classify the counseling theories and techniques into two approaches. One is the insight-oriented approaches, and the other one is action-oriented approaches. The first classification is insight-oriented approaches. The other one is action-oriented approaches. What is the insight-oriented approach? What is the meaning of insight? Insight means to have an idea about our own behavior. In other words, insight is nothing but getting an idea about our own code of conduct. So the focus of the insight approach is helping the client to have an idea about his own code of conduct or his own behavior. Then, in the insight approach, generally, we are helping the client to develop the confidence which is necessary to cope with anxiety. In the insight approach, we are helping the client to develop the confidence which is necessary to cope with anxiety. And we are trying to bring extensive alteration in the client's behavior. Actually, we use the word, psychologists, we use the word characteristic structure. In general, many people nowadays using the word personality, personality development, personality change. This is impossible. It is very difficult to change the core of the personality. If you think about the definition of the personality, personality is the word derived from the Latin root persona, which means mask. Actually, the term personality was coined to analyze the impact of this mask on us, on others. So, various definitions were proposed for personality, and one of the popular definitions was proposed by G.W. Alport. He proposed personality as the dynamic organization of those psychophysical systems which determines individuals' characteristic behavior and thought. Personality refers to a dynamic organization of the psychophysical system which determines the individual's characteristic behavior and thought. If you analyze the definition, you can understand that personality is always dynamic. Your personality cannot be static. If the personality is static, you are not alive. So, personality is dynamic. So, that just because of this dynamism, we have so many problems in the day-to-day life, or even we are developing a maladaptive behavior due to this dynamic system. And of the psychophysical system, so personality reflects the totality of the person. So, psychological aspect as well as the physical aspect, psychophysical system, and which determines the characteristic behavior and thought. So, our personality determines our thought process, our personality determines the characteristic behavior. And if you analyze this definition, we can change the thought process, we can help the individual to change the thought process, we can help the individual to modify the thought process, thereby the individual can change the characteristic behavior. The core of the personality cannot be changed. So, we the psychologists, we are not using the changing the personality of an individual, which is impossible. And moreover, even to change the characteristic behavior, the willingness from the client is the most essential thing. So, without the willingness of the client, nothing can be possible. And if you come back to the insight therapies, we are trying to bring the extensive alteration in the individual's characteristic structure. Then, not only that, we are helping the individual to develop the new adaptive capabilities. We help the individuals to develop new adaptive capabilities. These are all the focus of insight therapies. And Professor Mangaleshwaran. Professor?
Yes, sir.
Whether voice is clear or not?
Clear, sir, but maybe because of the room structure, the echo may be there, because I don't understand really what is the thing, maybe with your headphone or the room structure. So,
no, Professor, not even I'm using the fan, I'm using only the AC.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I think you can keep some distance with the mic and your. I think that can be a better way to solve the issue.
I have reduced the volume also.
Yes, sir.
Even my internal volume itself is very high. That's the problem.
Yes, sir. No issue, sir. Fine, sir. Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, the second classification is action-oriented approaches. Second classification is action-oriented approach. I think many of the people are asking about the PowerPoint. Don't worry, I will supply the material with Professor Mangaleshwaran. Right. Okay. Action-oriented approaches. What is the action-oriented approach? So the word itself is self-explanatory. We are taking some action to help the client to come out of the problem. Action-oriented approaches. So what is the focus of action-oriented approaches? Now, the first one is, normally when we take the action, we should be careful that whether the client is using any defense mechanism, and if the defense mechanism is cut down, what may happen to the client. So the focus of the action-oriented approach is, first we are helping the client to maintain the defense against the anxiety. For instance, you would come across the drug addiction, alcoholism and smoking cases. These are all the best examples for this point. Okay? If you suddenly ask the person to stop the usage of alcohol, he will make some other nervous manifestation. Or if you ask the alcoholic to stop the behavior, he will start using the different kind of drugs. So, first we should help the client to control and maintain the defenses over anxiety. So what we used to do is, let me share my experience in this place so that you can easily understand. Actually, I had a client who is an alcoholic, and he claimed that he is capable of finishing 1/2 bottle plus 1/4 bottle every day. 1/2 and 1/4 bottle every day. Then he came and I checked his willingness. Normally in psychological counseling, the willingness for this kind of alcoholism and smoking is very, very important. Even in the other cases, based on the family members' compulsion, sometimes they may say yes, sometimes they may follow your instructions. But these two cases, especially the alcoholics and smoking, okay, they never oblige you. They never oblige you. So what we used to do is, we will give the appointment to them, and at the same time we will give appointment to other person also. And they will come and sit in our hall, our waiting room. At the same time, we will have some other client. We will have some other client. We will check their passions, whether they have a serious desire to quit this behavior or not. Only after 2 or 3 sessions like this, then after the client is over, we will ask them to come on the other session. We will give some other appointment. So after 2 or 3 sitting, still if the client is coming for the therapy or coming for the counseling, we can understand that he is having a serious desire. So willingness from the client. Willingness gives the willpower to the client. So we have to check. Then alcohol, we cannot suddenly stop the behavior, as I said earlier. So what I did was, I asked him to drink the same amount of alcohol, but you have to, chip by chip, you should taste the alcohol and you should drink the alcohol. Chip by chip, you should taste and drink the alcohol. You should sit with your spouse and you should drink the alcohol. Because you should not go to the outside places like bar. There you will be drinking more with your companions. So keep the same half bottle plus 1/4 bottle, but you should sit with your spouse and drink the alcohol. But you should taste it chip by chip. And as you know very well, alcohol doesn't taste good if you taste it chip by chip. Right. Then the third condition is, if at all you are unable to chip and drink the complete alcohol, then you have to pour the alcohol into the wash basin. You should not keep it for the next day. You should not keep it for the next day. So you can observe within 3 or 4 days, number one, we have permitted him to drink alcohol. So we have helped him to control the defenses against the anxiety, number one. Because he didn't have the anxiety that I am going to quit the alcoholic behavior. Then, number two, we are helping the client to drink the alcohol. That is, the condition is the same. But the third part is, number one, you cannot drink the alcohol more when you taste it and drink it. That is the biggest challenge. The other aspect is, if you are unable to finish the quota, that today's quota, you have to waste it. You have to pour it everything in the waste bin or in the wash basin. So you are losing your money. You are losing your money. See how you are controlling the defenses against the anxiety of the client. So slowly, what happened was, within 1.5 months or 2 months, he quit the behavior. He quit the behavior. And he has reported that, sir, I cannot taste and drink alcohol, which is not necessary at all. It is harassing. It is harassing. Number two, every day I am losing about 1,000 rupees. Every day I am losing about 1,000 rupees. That itself will prick the individual, and almost he has stopped the behavior. Till today, he didn't touch the alcohol. Though the treatment was over 5 years back, he didn't touch the alcohol. So this is the best example for help the client to maintain and control the defenses over the anxiety. And in many cases, due to the anxiety, we have negative feeling. Anxiety is the root cause of many things. Anxiety is the initial state of disturbance which influence our performance, but it is the root cause of so many things. So the major problem with the clients is they have the negative feeling. They have the negative feeling. So help the client to remove the negative feeling. Throughout the therapeutic process or techniques, we should help the client to remove the negative feeling. Then help the client to modify the characteristic behavior. Help the client to modify the characteristic behavior. And do remember, the behavior modification cannot attain suddenly. Within a day, the behavior cannot be changed. If so, it is nothing but the client is acting. The client is nothing but acting. Right? We are helping the client to modify the characteristic behavior. So, help the characteristic behavior, first we should ask the client to modify the behavior in a particular situation. For instance, you have the client with social anxiety. Social anxiety. So in the initial stage, ask the client to talk before the mirror. So when you spoke before the mirror, slightly you gain confidence. Then with your presence, being a counselor, with your presence, ask the client to talk in front of the mirror. So it is a kind of social support. The presence of the counselor is a kind of social support. So you are asking the client to talk in front of the mirror. Then slowly ask the client to talk to the close friends with your presence or without your presence. It depends on the situation and capability of the client. Then ask the client to face the open meeting, open gathering. So like here, the principle is we are using the systematic desensitization with the exposure principle. We are using the systematic desensitization with the exposure principle. So we help the client to modify the characteristic behavior. So after a few days, the client may ask, "Sir, I cannot believe I spoke with the group of people. Even I have the command over the language." Then you can reply, "You already have the command over the language and you are capable of. Only thing is your inhibition to meet the people. That's the reason for your social anxiety. And accordingly, we can point out and we can help the client to come out of the problem." So to modify the characteristic behavior of the client. Then sometimes the clients may have the strong negative thoughts, negative beliefs. Okay. See, even you may be one of the coach, or I may be one of the coach like that. So except me, all the other people are very happy in this world. Does it applicable to everyone? Except me, all the other people are very happy in this world. The God, the worst fellow is he makes me suffering a lot, and all the other people is keeping happy. This kind of irrational beliefs. Remember, beliefs are the facts which could influence your behavior completely. So if you have these kind of irrational beliefs and you can't move normally with other people, you will be always develop the jealousy. You will always have the you will always express your anger towards the others because you feel that except you, all the other people are happy. So you cannot tolerate. So this is the kind of situation, right? Initially, they may not be able to listen to you, or they may not be in a position to understand your point of view. So in this kind of situation, we have to attack the belief system of the client. You may raise the question, how can we attack the belief system of the client? It's very simple. I have the common slogan, except me, everyone is happy, I am only suffering. So ask the client to give the evidences. Then you just counter with the client. Okay, you have this much of identify the positive qualities of the client. You just focus and point out the positive qualities of the client. When comparing with all the other people, how much you are better. There is a British proverb. See, I am worrying that I didn't have the shoes until I saw the person without 2 legs. So the same principle can be working well to attack the irrational belief of the client. So we should challenge the belief system of the client, we should attack the belief system of the client, and we should ask for the evidences. That way we break the belief system of the client. So sometimes we may be appearing a little bit harsh. That's why we use the word attacking the irrational belief, not beating the client. So attacking the irrational belief system of the client. So as I said, if you take the counseling approaches, there are 2 major divisions. One is insight approaches, the other one is action-oriented approaches. The second aspect, under the insight approach, we have reconstructive approach and re-educative approach. Whatever the points I have covered under the insight approach, like conscious about one's own code of conduct, help the client to develop their confidence, which is essential to cope up with the anxiety, to bring the extensive alteration in the individual's character, and help the client individual to develop new coping capabilities. These are all meant for reconstructive approach. Then what is re-educative approach? In the re-educative approach, we are educating the individual for self-direction. Actually, self is a psychological entity in which the concept of me and my are blended together. Self is, those who came across the phenomenological approach, they are very well known about the self-self conflict, intra-individual conflict. So self is the psychological entity in which the concept of me and my are blended together. And we have 3 kinds of selves. This is called as our multiple selves. One is our perceived self, what we perceive about ourselves. Then the second one is real self. What is the actual characteristics of the person? And the third one is ideal self. Ideal self, what one wishes to be. So perceived self, for example, I perceive that whatever I am doing is right. Whatever I am doing is right. Then real self, when I compare with the societal norms, right? My behavior is not appropriate, or my behavior is not approved by the society. So real self. Then ideal self. With the inappropriate behavior, I want to be the role model for the others. I want to be a role model for the other. This is my ideology. So the perception and reality never go hand in hand. The reality and the ideology never go hand in hand. So always we have the self conflict, which is known as intrapersonal conflict. Intrapersonal conflict. For example, whenever you have the value conflict, ethical dilemma, which is the best example for intra-individual conflict. Intra-individual conflict. So the self conflict is the intra-individual conflict. In the re-educative approach, actually we are helping the individual to resolve the self conflict and utilizing the self of an individual for betterment. That is called as self-direction. Self-direction. Actually, this re-educative approach focus on the resolving the self conflict, then making the individual to be aware of himself, self-awareness, then make the individual to understand about himself, self-understanding, help the individual to develop the healthy concept, self-concept, then help the individual to develop the positive side of motivation or positive quality about himself, that is known as self-esteem, then help the individual to regulate his own behavior, self-regulation, then help the individual to realize his own potentiality, self-actualization. Self-actualization. So the self conflict has to be resolved, and we are helping the individual for self-direction. We are promoting the self-direction qualities in an individual. That comes to a re-educative approach. Re-educative approach. Then if you take the reconstructive approach, what are all the different therapeutic or counseling approaches coming under reconstructive approach? This is the problem with the psychologists. We use the word counseling and therapy interchangeably. Right. Reconstructive approach. What are the different techniques comes under the reconstructive approach? Right. One is psychodynamic approach. Psychodynamic approach. Psychodynamic. Okay. So the psychological phenomena, the psychological aspect, use the dynamism. That's the meaning of psychodynamic approach. The best example is the Freud's approach. Actually, in therapy, you will be using the Freudian approach, McClainian approach, and Jungian approach. But in counseling, normally we utilize only Freudian approach. The Freudian approach. The first one is Freudian approach. The second one is existential therapy. The existential approach. The existential approach. The third one is Gestalt approach. The Gestalt approach. The fourth one is CBT, popularly known as CBT, cognitive behavior therapeutic approach. And the fifth one is transaction analysis. Transaction analysis, TA, transaction analysis. And the sixth one is personal construct approach by George Kelly. Personal construct approach by Kelly. And if you take the re-educative approach, we have Adlerian therapy. Adler's therapy is known as individual psychology. Adlerian approach. And the second one is person-centered approach. Person-centered approach. The proponent of the person-centered approach is Carl Rogers, who was the pioneer in client-centered approach. So person-centered approach. Then, if you take the action-oriented approaches, we have two major approaches. One is behavioristic therapy or behavioristic approach, and the other one is REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy by Albert Ellis. So, the counseling techniques can be grouped into two major categories. One is insight approaches and the other one is action-oriented approaches. Under the insight approach, we have reconstructive approach as well as re-educative approach. Under reconstructive approach, we have psychodynamic approach, existentialism, gestalt approach, cognitive behavior therapeutical approach, transaction analysis, and personal construct approach. Then on the other side, re-educative approach, which follows Adlerian therapy, Adlerian approach, and person-centered approach. Then and under the action-oriented approach, one is behavioristic approach and the other one is REBT. In a nutshell, action-oriented approach, there are only two approaches, behavioristic approach and rational emotive behavior therapy. Under the reconstructive approach, only re-educative approach, Only we have two things, Adlerian approach and person-centered approach. All the other techniques are coming under reconstructive approach. That's all. You can easily remember. Not only that, we can group the therapeutic approaches based on the problem domain. We can group the therapeutic approaches based on our problem domain. You know the word human cognition. Cognition refers to the higher order mental process in human through which we process, analyze and utilize information. Cognition is the higher order mental process in humans through which we process the information, analyze the information and utilize the information. So process the information, there comes your attention, sensation, attention, etc., etc. Then analyzing the information, there comes your thinking, divergent thinking, etc. Then utilizing the information, there comes your problem solving, decision making and other qualities. Problem solving, decision making and other qualities. Just I'm giving the gist. Then if you take the human cognition, it is believed that there are three domains in the human cognition. There are three domains, three areas in the human cognition. One is cognitive domain. Cognitive domain. Cognitive domain is responsible for our thinking. Cognitive domain is responsible for our thinking. Thinking is the higher order mental process in humans through which the mental manipulation of external objects and events have been taken place. Thinking refers to the higher order cognitive process in humans through which the mental manipulation of external objects and events have been taken place. So the cognitive domain, that portion is responsible for our thinking. Then the affective domain. The affective domain is responsible for our feelings and emotions. Feelings and emotions. Feelings, any impulse are said to be the feeling, but emotions are the elated state of our feeling. Emotions refers to, actually, emotional state is very, very dangerous. Emotional state is very, very dangerous. If at all you assess any problems of an individual, definitely they have the emotional impact, and due to the emotional impact, the problem have been occurred. The problems have been occurred. So the affective domain is responsible for your feelings and emotion. Then the psychomotor domain, which is also known as cognitive domain in education, which is responsible for actions, what we do. So thinking, feeling and doing. Thinking, feeling and doing. And even if you really want to understand the client in a better manner, you should understand the problem domain of the client. From there you should try to understand the client's perspective, for which this classification may be helpful. So if you take the problem domain, first one is affective domain. Affective domain is nothing but the related to emotion and feeling. Emotion and feeling. So if you take the therapeutic approaches, under the affective domain we have client-centered approach. Client-centered approach, and the second approach is Gestalt approach. Gestalt. The German term Gestalt means pattern or form. Gestalt is the cognitive term which talks about the relationship. So we use the client-centered approach and Gestalt approach under the affective domain. So if you have the problem with the emotion or feeling, right, the better approaches are that if the client have the problem only with the emotions, emotional imbalance, emotional maturity, and unable to understand the other feelings and all. So we can go for either client-centered approach or Gestalt approach depending on the problems of the client. Then, if the problem is persisting with the cognition of the client, if the problem is with the cognition of the client, the thinking aspect of the client, we should go for cognitive behavior approaches or personal construct approaches. Personal construct theory by Kelly. Actually, Kelly's proposition is very, very simple. We have our own filter and we are not allowing the other's opinion to enter in our mind, and we are finding fault with others. Jaundice died. That's the best example. Jaundice died. So, if you have the problem in your thinking process, the cognitive approach and the personal construct approach are the better approaches. But sometimes we have the problem between cognitive domain as well as the affective domain. We have the problem in our thinking as well as feeling too. We have the problem with our thinking and feeling, in which case we should go for the Freudian approach. We should go for psychodynamic approach by Freud. Similarly, the Adlerian approach, individual psychology. Adlerian approach. Then, the third aspect is behavioral issues. If you have the problem with the behavior of the client, straight away we can go for behavioristic therapy. Straight away we can go for behavioristic therapy or behavioristic counseling. But sometimes we have a problem with the thinking aspect and behavioral aspect. Thinking aspect and behavioral aspect. So we have to go for REBT or analysis. Apart from this, people may have the problem in thinking, feeling, and action. Thinking, feeling, and action. There comes the role of the existential therapy. There comes the role of existential approach, and some of the therapies like the narrative therapy, solution-focused brief approach, etc. are coming under. These are called as the new therapies, which are coming under the therapy under multiple context. Therapy under multiple context. So again, let me summarize. Depending on the problem domain, we can go for therapy. When the problem is in the affective domain, emotional aspect, we can go for client-centered approach and gestalt approach. If the problem is in the thinking aspect, we can go for cognitive and the personal concept approach. When the problem is in the behavior alone, we can go for behavioristic approach. And when we have the problem between thinking and feeling, we have to think about Freudian approach and Adlerian approach. When the problem is between thinking and behavior, we can go for REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy, and transaction analysis. And all the other things you can place it under the multiple context. Okay. Let me summarize. The task given to me is providing the overview of the counseling theories in action. Then, the first one is, as I said, psychodynamic approach. The first one is psychoanalytic therapy by Sigmund Freud. Even my idea is, instead of touching all those things, I can talk about psychoanalytic approach as well as behavioristic approach. Psychoanalytic approach and behavioristic approach, because in practice, in our Indian context, in foreign context, if you are the Freudian therapist, you are not allowed to follow any other approach. If you are a behavioristic therapist, you are not allowed to follow any other approach. But in Indian context, we have the problem. Most of the problems are deep-rooted with our emotions. So, when the problems are deep-rooted with the emotions, we are unable to predict how it will be reflected, whether it is in the behavior or it's in the cognitive process. For example, if you take the intelligent person and criminal, there is a thin line between the intelligent person and the criminal. There is a very thin line between intelligent person and the criminal. He is also intelligent, but he is using the intelligence in the destructive manner. So there comes the problem. He is found in the thinking aspect, intelligent thinking aspect, and at the same time, whether the individual is weak in the emotional aspect or only the behavior aspect. So this is the big question. So what we have to do is, we have to analyze the problem from the multiple context. We have to analyze the problem in the multiple context. From that, we should try to provide a solution for the client. So, based on my practice and with the other therapist practice, I felt that as a social worker, you can most of the time adopt the behavioristic methods. That is very, very convenient. That's the convenient method. So, if it is okay, first let me touch upon the Freudian method. Let me touch upon the Freudian method, and I will go for the behavioristic approach. Then, first the Freudian approach. If you take the Sigmund Freud, the Freudian approach, Freud is the psychiatrist. Based on his clinical experiences, he proposed his model of psychodynamic approach, the Freudian approach, psychoanalysis. The Freudian approach is called a psychoanalysis. It is the outcome of his clinical experiences. And Freud has noticed that many of the people, they have the problem from the childhood experiences, and the childhood experiences influence the current behavior. The childhood experiences influence the current behavior. So, Freud understood that unless you are removing the stick points due to the childhood experiences, it will be very difficult to normalize the individual. For example, today you have a hatredness towards your authority figure. You have some hatredness towards authority figure. In today's world, nobody is respecting authority and nobody bothers about the authority. But still, if you develop a lot of hatredness towards authority, if you analyze the individual's behavior, the childhood experience of the client, you can understand that either the father or mother may be the dominating person in the family, or due to the elderly dominating model, the client would have been suffered a lot in the earlier stage. At the earlier stage of the life, now the client is developing the agitation towards authority. Agitation towards authority, right? So, Freud tried to analyze the behavior of the client with a different theoretical viewpoint. Like he has assessed the personality structure as ego and superego, and the dynamics as unconscious mind determinants of personality, preconscious determinants of personality, and conscious determinants of personality. Then finally he spoke about the psychosexual stages of development: oral stage, anal stage, phallic and genital stage. Actually, oral stage it's up to the age of 2, and anal stage between the age of 2 to 4, roughly I'm telling. Then phallic stage it's up to the age of 12 or 13. Then genital stage after 13 and continued. Then in each and every stage, Freud felt that the needs of the child should be fulfilled at each and every appropriate stage. For example, at the oral stage, if the needs of the child is not fulfilled, like at the oral stage, the most important need of the child is sucking the milk from the mother. So, if the need of the child is not fulfilled, Freud found that, or Freud proposed that, that leads to oral fixation in the later stage. That leads to the oral fixation in the later stage. So, oral fixation, if you have the oral fixation in the earlier stages of your life, now you are unable to trust the other people. You are unable to trust the other people. Number 2, you develop the verbalism, using the vulgar words, etc. are the outcome of the oral fixation according to Freud. So, this is the outline for the therapy, counselors and social workers. If the individual is using the abusive word too much or vulgarism too much, you can easily identify that the childhood experience of the client is not appropriate. So, you have to focus on the childhood experience of the client. You should take the family history, you should take their early childhood experience, and you should analyze and interpret the early childhood experience for the reconstruction of the behavior. Hope you got an idea. Then, the second stage is the anal stage. Anal stage, the most important disciplinary orientation on the child in the anal stage is toilet training. In the villages, you would have noticed that the mothers or grandmothers, they will keep the child on the edge of their legs, and the child will be induced to go to the toilet. And even today, most of the toy shops, they are selling the elephant toy, big elephant toy, horse toy, and there you can find a space for, it is like the Western toilet training, right? Keeping the child on the corner of the leg is the Indian toilet training, but using the toys are nothing but the Western toilet training. But if the toilet training is not proper, then obviously it is very difficult for the client to develop to handle the emotions. So that the client, due to this childhood experience, if the needs of the child is not fulfilled at this stage, it is called as anal fixation. Due to the anal fixation, the client may develop negativity, cruelty, sadistically controlling others. Okay, if you talk about these 3 aspects, nowadays everyone is like this only. That is the reality, half reality. But the negativity, cruelty, sadistically controlling others, etc. are the outcome of the anal fixation. Anal fixation. Then the third stage is phallic stage. In the phallic stage, if the client's needs are not fulfilled properly, that leads to phallic fixation. So the phallic fixation, due to the phallic fixation, we are unable to develop the trust on the opposite gender. And we are unable to accept the love and affection of the opposite gender. In other words, according from the Freud's model, we can understand that if at all you have the family, marital, sexual issues, that is the outcome of your phallic fixation. Because this stage has both homosexual as well as heterosexual characteristics. And hence, if you take the Freud's model, then you can understand that the needs of the child should be fulfilled at every stage of the life. If the needs are not fulfilled, that leads to the various problems in the later stage of the life. So there is no other option. We have to identify the needs of the child, and we have to address the needs of the child based on the various information we have collected from the different stages of life. So Freud's theory provides the insight that how the childhood experiences, how the different childhood experiences help us to develop the healthy personality, or at the same time, the fixation in the different childhood experiences, how it affects the behavior of the individual in the later stage of the life. And I used to say this in my class: without touching Freud, you cannot deal with the abnormality of an individual. The simple reason is, either you should accept Freud and you should go along with Freud, or you should propose your own viewpoints. Like some of the neo-Freudian and other people, they have proposed their additional viewpoints. They have deviated from Freud, but they have proposed their own viewpoint. So like the neo-Freudians and other people, you have to propose your own model. You have to propose your own model, and you have to address the issues of the client. So it is very, Freud's theory is the base to work with the clients. Freud's theory is the base to work with the client. Without touching the Freud's theory, we cannot go with the client. Okay. What are the therapeutic strategies suggested by Freud's approach? What are the therapeutic strategies suggested by the Freud's approach? The first one is catharsis, or free association. Catharsis or free association. In today's world, we don't find people to listen to us. Almost in the Western culture, just to listen to them, people go to the counselor paying the money, and they're just ventilating whatever they have in their mind. Whatever they have in their mind. So, in the Western approach, in the catharsis, which is also known as free association, just we are allowing the client to verbalize whatever they have in their mind. But in catharsis, the most important thing is you should allow the client to ventilate whatever they have in their mind, but at the same time, you should have the thorough understanding. Actually, if you are an experienced counselor, you can understand the nuances of the behavior of the client when he or she is verbalizing whatever they have in their mind. And in due course, it was found that for many people, once if you allow them to verbalize, ventilate what they have in their mind, okay, you could see that many people used to say, sir, 90% of my problems are solved. 90% of my problems are solved. So which means they have a suppression. So once if you allow them, they can ventilate their issues. And they feel they have released the pressure. So just think of today's life. Today we are mostly technology oriented, and we become an addict of technology. When we give much emphasis for the technology, we have lost the human values and human relationship. We are ready to interact with the other person through the gadgets, but we are not ready to interact with the other person directly, openly. So catharsis, the free association, which is the most important thing. And apart from psychoanalytic point of view, you can use the catharsis as the first step in most of the clients. Normally, the clients with the depression, they will not respond to catharsis. Because you have to break the resistance, and you have to make them to trust yourself, and then finally you could try to open their eyes and you can elicit the information. But catharsis is the free association, which could be helpful for making the client to express the feelings, as well as helping the client to ventilate the emotions. Then the second method used by the Freud is the resistance. According to Freud, resistance is the sticking point. In counseling process, yesterday Professor Guru Bharati would have touched upon the resistance and transference and interpretation. Resistance, transference and interpretation, all the three are nothing but the parts of psychoanalysis by Freud. All the three aspects are the part of psychoanalysis. And do remember, whatever the therapeutic, whatever the counseling approach you are following, you will come across a lot of resistance. Even we know very well in the Indian context that many people have the resistance to approach the counselor, though they have the problem. Though they have a problem, they have a lot of resistance to approach the counselor. Because they feel that if you are approaching the counselor, you will be treated as mad. You will be treated as mad. So, unless you break this myth with the Indian clients, it's very difficult to address their emotional issues. It is very difficult to provide counseling. So, resistance, even to approach the counselor, they have resistance, but to express the reality, to express their inner world, definitely they will have a lot of resistance. They will have a lot of resistance. So, in general, resistance is viewed as a sticking point, stuck point of the client, stuck point of the client. But in some of the approaches, resistance is viewed as the fighting spirit. Resistance is viewed as the fighting spirit. If you take the Carl Jung said that resistance is the fighting spirit. But in most of the time, we found that the resistance is the stuck point of the client. Okay, how can you break the resistance of the client? Or how can you dissolve the resistance of the client? Then you can use the interpretation. You can use the interpretation. For example, when the client having the problem and unable to share the problem, or have the shyness, or feeling bad to share the problem, you can neutralize the client very simply. See, remember, like the COVID-19, majority of the people in the society have this problem. Majority of the people in the society have the problem. If you use the word, many people have this problem. I came across with many clients. Don't use the name of the client. No, don't use the place of the client. Don't mention about the particular incident of the client. Okay, that is like breaching confidentiality, and this client may have the doubt that you will share about himself or herself like this to the other client. So you should be very, very cautious while quoting this kind of incidents. So many people in the society have this problem. Okay, I came across with many people, and majority of the people, with my help, they have solved the problem. They have solved the problem. Even without inhibition, if you share this, certainly I'm not the person to solve the problem, but certainly I will help you to come out of the problem by utilizing your own resources. So if you provide the confidence like this is also the trust building process in the counseling process. Trust building process in the counseling process. So if you talk to the client like this, you can help the client to break the resistance. You can help the client to break the resistance. Then, not only that, the interpretation what you have provided certainly will be helpful for the client to break the resistance. Not only to break the resistance, even it could aid for the attitudinal change or behavioral change. The interpretation provided by the therapist will be highly useful to break the resistance of the client. Not only breaking the resistance, at the same time, we can help the client to change the attitude. And transference. This is used by the Freud with a different connotation, but being a social worker, being a psychologist, we should be very, very cautious about the transference of the client. Transference is nothing but the emotional reaction or emotional ventilation of the client towards the therapist. For example, you are helping the client for marital counseling. You are helping the client with marital counseling. So the client is assuming you as the opposite gender, and that you are really in the opposite gender, and you as the threat producing object, and the client has started ventilating the emotion. Okay, the client is longing for the love and affection of the husband or wife. You should not provide that love and affection. Okay, there comes the ethical principles, ethical values of the therapist, ethical values of the counselor, the ethical principles in counseling, right? But at the same time, we should know how to channelize and help the client to ventilate the feeling. How should we help the client to ventilate the feeling? There comes the transference and counter transference. Transference and counter transference. Then, there are so many ethical principles are available to overcome the counter transference from the client, from the therapist, the counselor or therapist. And the last one is dream analysis. According to Sigmund Freud, dreams are the royal roads for unconscious motivation because we have no limit. We have no limit. So dreams are the royal roads for unconscious motivation. So dreams as actually we have the hidden content for the dream. hidden content as well as the manifest content of the dream. The latent content or hidden content of the dream is more important. Okay, let me give a simple example. How can we do the dream analysis? A rat kills a cat in a battle. A rat kills a cat in a battle. On listening to this, you should not laugh at the client. Okay? Because dreams has no limit, dreams has no boundary, anything you would have done. Anything you would have done. So logically analyze this. Okay? Ask the client's situation, client's position, who are the authorities of the client, what kind of problem the client is having with the work setting or family setting. Likewise, if you get the family tree and the occupational tree, you could come across the understanding that the client always assumes himself in the weakest position of a rat, and the cat is the authority or the fatherly figure or motherly figure in the home. Okay, so the rat is the client. The rat is the client, and he is unable to say anything, and he is unable to fight with the authority or fight with the elder members in the family. So he is suppressing himself, and he is having the ventilation. He is having the vicarious satisfaction that, like a rat kills the cat in a battle, he is getting a vicarious satisfaction. He is getting the vicarious satisfaction. So this kind of dream analysis will be helpful for us to assess the real need suppression of the client. Need as well as suppression of the client. So these are all some of the techniques used in the psychoanalysis. But while I have explained, you could understand that many of these, except the dream analysis you cannot use everywhere because dream analysis is the difficult process. But the catharsis, the free association, the resistance, interpretation, transference, and counter-transference, we are using everywhere in the counseling process. Even you to agree with me. These are the basic things which have been borrowed only from the Sigmund Freud's approach. We have taken all those things only from the Sigmund Freud's approach. Then, this is analyzing the hidden aspect of the client. The other part I want to cover is the behavioristic approach. The behavioristic approach is based on the learning theory. Learning refers to a more or less relatively permanent change in behavior brought about by experience or practice. And remember, learning is easy and unlearning is very, very difficult. Actually, you know that Socrates was the popular philosopher. Socrates. Two people have approached Socrates. One fellow, both of them from India. One fellow said that, sir, I have walked so many miles to reach you. I want to learn the philosophy only from the lion's mouth. So, despite of my life, I have traveled this many kilometers, this many miles, and I have reached you, sir. You should teach me philosophy. Okay, Socrates said, okay, fine. Okay, the next question normally what we have is like the client. So, what is my fees? What is my fees? The Socrates said it's 1,000 pounds. 1,000 pounds. The next fellow, he is a teacher, and on those days it is guru. Sir, I am a guru. I have been a guru for so many people. I know this area of philosophy. So anyhow, I want to learn philosophy, the final touch in my life from you. So I came here by traveling more than 1,500 miles. You should teach me philosophy. Socrates said yes. As usual, the next question is, what is my fee? And since he knew so many areas of philosophy, he was expecting concession. Right? So what is my fee? Socrates said 5,000 pounds. 5,000 pounds. This fellow got wild. Sir, that fellow didn't know the ABC of philosophy. You are charging him just 1,000 pounds. But I know so many areas of philosophy, but you are charging me too heavily. This is injustice. The human nature is, whenever it is not satisfying us, we will call it as injustice. That's our basic human nature. Socrates smiled and said, see, he didn't know the ABC of philosophy, so it's easy for me to teach him philosophy. He didn't know the ABC of philosophy, so it's easy for me to teach him philosophy. But you know this area of philosophy. So first I have to erase whatever you have in your mind, and then I should reteach philosophy. So for erasing whatever you have in your mind, that is the Herculean task. That is the Herculean task for which the charge is 4,000 pounds, and for teaching philosophy it is only 1,000 pounds. Now you can understand when you think of the behavioristic problem among the individuals, how it is very difficult to unlearn what was previously learned. how it is very difficult to remove the undesirable pattern of behavior which already became the part and parcel of our behavior. Right. So behavioristic approach believes the principle that human beings are capable of learning and training. Human beings are like we are training the dogs. We are believing with the human being also. Human beings are capable of learning and training. Right. So there are three approaches under the behavioristic approach which lay the foundation for the construction of the behavioristic practice. The first one is classical conditioning. Classical conditioning. Any stimulus will elicit the response. That is the essence of the classical conditioning. Any stimulus will elicit the response. Then by providing the stimulus to the organism, the stimulus response bond will be strengthened. That is the essence of classical conditioning. Then the second area is operant conditioning. Then in the operant conditioning, the basic proportion of the operant conditioning is the organism is capable of operating the environment to produce the consequences. We are capable of operating our environment to produce the consequences. I'll give the example so that easily you can discriminate classical and operant conditioning. See, most of your childhood learning is based on the classical conditioning. Right? You are doing something, you have been given a chocolate. You have been given some prize. You are very, very happy. And people are clapping. You are very, very happy. That is the example for classical conditioning. The stimulus response. Right? Then, operant conditioning, you know that you will be getting your PG degree, Master of Social Work, only after 2 years. But we put the whole lot of effort for the 2 years. Only then you will get the PG degree. In the case of PhD degree, many people, they work for a decade to get the PhD. They work for a decade, 10 years to get the PhD. But still, they know that only after this toughest Herculean task, you will get the PhD. So, the organism operates the environment to produce the consequences. So, you are working hard, taking the effort, doing the research is your organism operates its environment. The consequence is your MSc degree or PhD degree. In short, we can say that it is like your long-term goals. It's like your long-term goals. Right? Chocolate for behavior is not the operant conditioning, it's the classical conditioning only. It is the classical conditioning only. Then, some people have keep on raising the question, what the Egan's model of counseling. Egan's model of counseling. Actually, the Egan's model is the insight-oriented approach. It is the three-stage model. It is the helping skill model. In this model, the first stage is we are doing the exploration. First stage is it is the exploration. Here we are helping the client by examining the thoughts and feeling. Then the second stage is insight. Here we are helping the client to understand the reasons for the thought and feeling. We are helping the client to understand the reasons for the thought and feeling. Then the third stage is action. The third stage is action. Here we are helping the client to make the necessary changes. And Egan's model is the fundamental model of counseling. And some people keep on asking this question. This is the fundamental model. Egan model is the three-stage helping model. Now we have gone to the six-stage helping model. This is the fundamental model of counseling. It is nothing but exploration, insight, and action. Exploration, insight, and action. But already I propose a six-stage model. Probably they may not understand that. Six-stage model of counseling. Right. So I hope you are clear about this. Egan model is the fundamental model of counseling. When the counseling process was developed, we have the Egan model. Nowadays we have shifted from Egan model to many higher developed models. And the popular model is the six-stage model, ASD, PCF. ASD, PCF. That is the six-stage model, that is the six-stage model of counseling. The six-stage model of counseling. Right. Analysis, synthesis, diagnosis, prognosis, counseling, and follow-up. That is the six-stage model. In the three-stage model, we have only exploration, insight, and action. Exploration, insight, and action. And coming back to the point, because the particular individual keeps on raising the question about Egan's model. Coming back to the point. So, in the operant conditioning, the organism operates its environment to produce the consequences. The organism operates its environment to produce the consequences. So, with the operant conditioning, we are looking for the desirable behavior modification with the long-term goals. The desirable behavior modification with the long-term goals. And the third learning theory, which is supporting the behavioristic approach, is social learning theory or social cognitive learning theory by Bandura. Bandura believed that human beings are capable of self-directed behavioral change. Self-directed behavioral change. If the opportunity is provided, human beings will try to regulate their own behavior. Then he proposed the concept of self-directed behavioral change. It is also called as self-regulation. Self-regulation. So in the self-regulation, he was using the terminology modeling and imitation. Modeling and imitation. Imitation is a kind of parrot learning. You just imitate the appropriate model. But modeling, you select your own role model and you are changing yourself. You are changing yourself. That is the higher level. So the classical conditioning, operant conditioning, and social cognitive learning theory are the foundation for the behavioristic counseling or behavioristic approach. Okay. In the behavioristic approach, what are the strategies we are using? What are the strategies we are using? The first one is behavioral analysis. Behavioral analysis. Probably you may be using all these things, but we are using the technical terms. What is the purpose of behavioral analysis? The first one is we can assess the behavioral excess. We can assess the behavioral excess. What do you mean by behavioral excess? Okay. See, some things are essential, but if you are utilizing the same, it is a kind of nonsense. It's a kind of nonsense. For instance, helping is an important quality. But if you prick the other person on the name of helping always, he will be irritated. So it became a torture. Your helping nature now became a torture for the other person. In this case, it is known as behavioral excess. In this case, it is behavioral excess. Then behavioral deficits. You are assessing the behavioral deficits. What is a behavioral deficit? See, as a grown-up adult, you should function in a particular manner. You should have the social decorum. But if you are unable to maintain the social decorum in this particular forum, then it is known as behavioral deficit. Behavioral deficit. Remember, nothing is positive, nothing is negative. The same thing, if it is used too much, it becomes behavioral excess. Then the deficiency of the same thing now becomes behavioral deficit. So the first one is behavioral analysis. You just think most of you are practitioners, social work practitioner, you just assess. Without using this behavioral analysis, we are assessing this aspect of the individual. We are assessing the positive as well as the negative aspect of the individual. That's known as behavioral analysis. Assessing the behavioral excess and assessing the behavioral deficits. Then we are using the different kind of techniques. In the behavioristic therapy. The first one is the behavioristic principles. Behavioristic principles, which is based on the operant conditioning procedure. So the first one is extinction. So extinction means forgetting something. We are helping the client to forget the behavior either by attacking the belief system or helping the client to understand the belief system, or we are taking the action and we are making the client to remove the behavior. Then the second aspect is aversive conditioning. Aversion. The second one is costly. In the treatment for alcohol, you know that in the drug addictions, in the de-addiction center, what they do is they will mix some chemical and when the client, in the final stage, when the client smells the alcohol and drink the alcohol, the client may get the forceful vomit or vomiting sensation. So the client develop the head resistance towards the smell and drinking the alcohol. This is what happened with the de-addiction centers. But once you came out of the de-addiction center, your friends are highly capable of desensitizing the client. They will say, hey, Mops, it is not like that. They have mixed the chemical and they made you to feel the vomiting sensation. This is the quality military rum. If you drink this, nothing will happen. So you could find that these people have started drinking more than the previous occasion after coming out of the de-addiction center. So unless the client is really willing to change, you cannot stop this behavior. But this is the problem with the aversive conditioning. But sometimes aversive conditioning is also essential. Whenever you go for the sexual behavior and extramarital affair and all the other things, we use these aversive principles. Then shaping. See, whenever the client has a successive improvement in the behavior, okay, it is like the molding the behavior. Whenever the client has the successive improvement in the behavior, we are appreciating the client by providing the suitable rewards. Thereby, we are molding the complete behavior in the client. That's known as shaping. Right. Based on the exposure principle, we can provide some of the counseling we used some of the counseling techniques for the client based on exposure principle. My problem is I'm interchangeably using the word therapy. Then, what are the things based on the exposure principles? Number one, relaxation training. So, except the client with the depression, you can use the relaxation training as the beautiful mechanism for all the clients. Like ask the client to focus on the music, or ask the client to any book to refer. You can refer any of the counseling theories and techniques books, like Gerald Corey, that's a better book. Then, relaxation training, we offer relaxation training to most of the problems except depression. Then, systematic desensitization. Normally for exam phobia, the phobia about the animals, or social phobia, we can use both systematic desensitization as well as in vivo desensitization. Then, the other one is in vivo flooding. In vivo flooding means we have the sudden exposure of the particular situation. For instance, your client is unable to face the social gathering. What is wrong? If you, after you have the human being, the other people are also human beings, just to push the client to face the other people. Nothing will happen. Some behavior manifestation will be there, but you push the client to face the situation. Then, social skills training. Social skills training are essential for many of the behavioral training. For instance, if you take the WHO, they have proposed 10 life skills. All the 10 life skills are nothing but coming under the social skills training. Then, yes, I'm crossing my limit 1 hour and 30 minutes over. What's the time?
We are nearing, sir. Yeah, we are nearing, sir. No problem. Yeah, we are nearing. Are you able to hear me? Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. Because I thought that I have crossed the time. People become restless.
No issue. Very interesting and very informative thing, sir. If you want to ask some queries, maybe you can.
Wait. I'll finish one more aspect and I'll stop. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So
No
in the social skills training, almost all the life skills are coming under the social skills training. All the life skills. So life skills, if you take the life skills, they are focusing about the communication, emotional awareness, decision making, problem solving. So all these skills can be grouped and placed under the social skills training. Then apart from that, we have sexual training, and I think being a social worker, you cannot focus on sexual training because which requires a lot of training. So in essence, we have, let me summarize. If we take the counseling theory, the counseling approaches, we have insight approaches as well as action-oriented approaches. Insight-oriented approaches can be classified into two areas. One is reconstructive and re-educative approach. Then, based on the problem domain, affective domain, cognitive domain, and psychomotor domain, we can classify the therapeutic approaches. And I have touched upon the basic principles of psychoanalytic approach as well as behavioristic approach, because if you think of your own practice, most of the techniques you are using in the day-to-day affair and you are using in the field comes under definitely these two approach. Okay, so thank you for your passion listening, and as per Professor Mangalish's instruction, now the session is open for discussion.
Yes,
you can raise the questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very kind of you, sir, for eliciting a broad spectrum on the counseling theories with the suitable examples and also from your experiences, right, sir? And we will take up one or two questions which is very relevant to the particular theories. You can put your questions in the chat box. Maybe one or two questions, because we are supposed to close the session by 12, but maybe we can take another 5 minutes. Is it okay, sir, for you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem.
Yeah, so I think if at all there is no questions, I think by the course of your thing, you have just seen the chat box and responded immediately. I think so.
There is no single. There is a question. What is the best counseling approach? There is no single counseling approach is called as best counseling approach, because it depends on the individual's problem. We have to tailor the better approach for the client. So don't stick on to any single approach, because the single approach may not be suitable for the same client over the period of time. Yes.
Any reference book with any case studies, please? They have asked.
Yeah, Theory and Practice of Counseling and Psychotherapy, Gerald Corey.
Oh, Gerald Corey. Okay.
Yeah, Corey, Corey.
So another thing, transference and counter transference.
One thing. No. Personality problems. Many people have raised the question on the personality problems.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. The definition also. See, you can try to alter the characteristic structure, characteristic behavior of an individual. By altering the behavior, you can expect the betterment in the individual. For example, I will tell you the ABC relationship so that you can understand. See, we have the attitude. I have the attitude, negative attitude. But due to my exhibiting behavior, people believe me. Right. For example, you could see some people in the life. Initially, they would have observed that they have changed the behavior. But after a particular period of life, or once a crucial situation comes, the basic behavior comes to effect. The basic personality trait will comes to effect. You cannot change that. That's what the proposition I said. Yes, sir. You asked about transference and counter transference. Mangaleshwaran, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Because there was
Transference is the emotional reaction of the client towards the therapist. For instance, in the catharsis process, when the client have the aggression towards the fatherly figure or motherly figure, what we used to do is you can do it in two ways. One is to show the aggression of the client towards the pillow or something else, right? But that will not help the client to completely ventilate the feeling. That is a behavioristic approach. But rather, whatever the client have negative thoughts, negative feelings about the fatherly figure, you can ask the client to ask imagine the therapist as the fatherly figure. You assume me as your father. You just ventilate, verbalize whatever you have in your mind. You should encourage the client. Initially, they will have a hesitation, but you can find once if they started verbalizing whatever they have in mind about the father, okay, the relationship will be intensified. Sometimes, when you give the suitable interpretation, the client will be very, very aggressive towards the fatherly figure, that is the therapist. That is the therapist. So this is transference. So we should be cautious about the transference. But at the same time, if the client wants to kill the father with the knife, you should not give this opportunity. That's what I said. You should be very, very cautious about the transference. And similarly, already I quoted this example. When the client is longing for love and affection from the spouse, you should not hug, you should not provide the love and affection to the client. That is ethically completely wrong. That is known as counter transference. So counter transference should be avoided by the therapist or counselor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Many people ask the question about transaction analysis and all. It's a lengthy area.
Because many questions need a very elaborate answer. I know that it will take more time.
I have to cover the theory once again.
Yeah, it's a separate. If you want to talk about transaction analysis, we need to have a separate.
3 days. 3 days.
Sir, of course, absolutely, sir. So, thank you, sir. Thank you. So, let me have the privilege of requesting Dr. Jerida Gnanajeljo, my senior colleague in the department, to give a concluding remarks and end with vote of thanks also. Thank you, madam. Please.
Good afternoon, everybody. It was a very pleasant session. First of all, we should thank Professor S. Kadhiravan, sir, the Controller of Examinations and Dean of Social Science, Professor and Head of Department of Psychology, Periyar University, for his vivid knowledge in counseling. And sir, we could see your sound theoretical knowledge in counseling, in guidance, in psychotherapy, and in different approaches. So thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. And sir, you gave us a very good start with talking about what is counseling. Then you went on to what is guidance and what is psychotherapy. And you said guidance is strength-based and counseling is problem-based. And you also said psychotherapy is a long-term process and it only deals about the weakness of the individual and wide individual. And then you talked about approaches to counseling. You talked about directive approach, non-directive approach, and eclectic approach. That was really fantastic. The way you described about each approaches was very impressive. And then you talked about insight and action-oriented approach, which is even more clear because when you gave us with a lot of examples, And you also gave a very clear definition about personality. And now our concept about personality has changed because of your good explanation. And you also said that willingness of the client is very essential for change. And you also said that anxiety is the root cause for many problems. That is of 100% true. And also behavior modification cannot happen in a day. That we have ourselves witnessed in our counseling center in the department. And you also talked about systematic desensitization. And you also talked about two important approaches, that is a re-educative approach and reconstructive approach. So that was highly informative with a lot of examples. And towards the end, you were talking about psychoanalytical approach and behavioralistic approach that we are using in our Indian context. And you talked about the fixation that could happen in the child during growth, about when you're talking about the psychoanalytical approach, and you say how negativism crop up when there is fixation. And you also talked about catharsis, and you also talked about transference, counter-transference, and especially dream analysis too. And you talked about classical condition, operant condition, and you gave a little example. That is very good of you, sir. You just looked into the chat box and many questions were cropping up regarding the Egan model of counseling. And you suddenly talked about Egan model of counseling. That was highly impressive from your side. And finally, we're talking about social cognitive behavior therapy by Bandura. And that was very remarkable. And towards the end, you were talking about life skills training. And maybe this whole session was highly informative. And you know that talking about theory is not that very easy because it's a very dry topic, abstract topic. We have to visualize what you are talking from the other side. And so thank you so much for your wonderful thing. And I should also thank the professor of our department, Dr. Mangleshwaran, for organizing this very good online training program, because we social workers have learned counseling. But maybe such online training programs give us a lot of clarity during this lockdown season. And I should also thank our professor, Dr. Ilanko, who was connected with us and who is also connected. And my other colleagues in the department, Dr. Nirmala and Dr. Rajuvel, for their presence. And all the participants. The participants ratio went up to 251, 252 in Google platform. And in YouTube also, it has gone more than 1,000. So it was a very good program, and appreciation to the department, to the departments. We should appreciate ourselves, our professor, Dr. Mangleshwaran, and others. The technical team, in fact, is quite, really deserves a round of applause, because they are working day and night. Even though we have some technical clinches now and then, they were able to solve it. And suddenly my mic went muted, and I didn't know how I'm going to speak for this concluding remark. Then I just texted a WhatsApp message to my teaching assistant, Dr. Selvamani, and he immediately said, "Madam, you take a screenshot and you send it to me." I did it, and he said, "You have to go out and you have to come in, ma'am." So such an expert people we have in the department. So a very good technical team we have. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Sir, Professor, many people are asking my contact number. I can just share 94434 96299.
Yeah, sir.
94434 96299.
944
34
34
96299.
96299. Okay, sir. I put it in the chat box, sir.
Yeah, that is better, because many people keep on asking.
No,
Somebody has typed immediately.
No, I have typed. Yeah, we have typed, sir.
Selvamani has typed immediately.
Yeah, Selvamani is very active. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Selvamani, sir. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very kind of you.
Thank you, all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very kind of
I am leaving.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.